I'll try to make it brief. No, it's a pleasure being here, guys. As he mentioned, my name is Ismaila. I never introduce myself with a title. I never introduce myself with my last name. I'm just Ismaila. And I'll tell you why. We're getting ready to have a conversation about leadership. Leadership has nothing to do with a title. The one person who my doctor title means the most is not me. It's maybe my parents, because they'll tell you I'm the first child in their family that had a doctorate degree. But it means absolutely nothing to me. And the reason why I've stopped introducing myself with my last name is not because I'm not proud of my heritage. I'm very proud. Baji is Jola. My family is from Fonyi, Buyam, Kankurang. I'm very proud of that heritage. But we all know in the Santa that there nobody's. No Gambian is your last name only. So if you see Baji, you see Jola, but I'm mixed with Maninka, Jola, Sere, and Wolof. So what am I? I'm just Gambian. It's very fundamental, and I'm starting there because oftentimes you guys have completed a milestone. You have more discipline than the average person because everybody has graduated, correct? Meaning you have committed to something for longer than 4 years that you could say, I started it and I finished it. But one lesson I want you to enact when you're going to start your leadership journey is forget about titles and keep your identity to just who you are based on the name that your father or your mother gave you. Because we also live in an era where the moment you tell somebody your last name is a distraction. Because our human brains are designed to connect dots. If you say Cisse, Cisse Ngare. Jallo, Fuller. You guys see what I mean? So it removes the essence of who you are, and your last name becomes a distraction. Right? So just something to keep in mind. The title leadership is not about title. We could turn the fan on. Are you guys okay with that? If we turn the fan on? It's on. But maybe it's better this way, right? So when I saw the title, The Function of Leadership, I was asking Sheikh Tijan, okay, who am I speaking to? Because before I speak to a crowd, I want to know who is it I am speaking to. I am speaking to young, non-black people. Once again, I believe we're all Africans. We just happen to be stuck in Gambia. And most of us, if you track 3 generations, we're not Gambian. There's something to think about as well, too. We're a byproduct of maybe the West African region. So young Gambians, over 75% of our population in the Gambia is under 35. So I'm speaking to the majority of the Gambia. I'm also speaking to the most aspirational group of Gambians because you've committed to something for 4 years, you've graduated, but every single day there's one question that's in your mind. What's next? Where to? Who is going to help me? Leadership doesn't start when you become a leader. There's no such thing as becoming a leader. Leadership starts with the first fundamental principle of leadership, which is extreme ownership. And it's not something I came up with, especially in the US military because they're really good at leadership. Extreme ownership is the fundamental principle of leadership. That's where you start, because if you cannot lead yourself, you could never lead a group of people. So leadership is not external. Leadership is internal. The decisions that you make every single day that change your mindset. Most people wake up and ask, why is this happening to me? If you are disciplined to lead yourself, you wake up thinking, what can I do about this? You guys understand the difference? Especially as young Gambians. It's very easy for people to put you in a box and say, young Gambians are this. That is because there's a perception that most young Gambians wake up thinking, why is this happening to me? Very few wake up and say, what am I going to do about this? You cannot be a leader at any level if you don't have self-accountability. It's impossible. All of you guys woke up and saw this opportunity and you applied for university. That was a choice. You stayed in university. Every single person in the room before you graduated, you had at least 1 or 2 instances, life events that could have given you every reason to stop going. Am I correct? It could be finances. It could be losing your loved ones. It could be instability at your home. It could be marriage. It could be having a child. A lot of you guys had a reason to stop. So the fact that you guys are actually here is a sign that you understand the concept of extreme ownership. Not just ownership, extreme. Extreme means it's non-negotiable. Whatever situation you find yourself, you ask, what can I do? Not lutah, lady health. Why me? No. Try me. You know the difference? Why me is rooted in victimhood. Try me means I'm ready for whatever it is to do my job. I am going to do this. That's the number one function of leadership. That's why when you see bad leaders, they're always quick to submit blame. I have bad staff. My children are not disciplined. The teacher is not this. It's always external. Good leaders start with, I need to be better. I have to improve. Fundamental sign, extreme ownership. Even amongst your peers, the people that you naturally trust the most are people that never shift blame. All of us have friends where if you wanted to call them and say, list all the problems in your life, they list an encyclopedia. Even Google cannot match the amount of problems they could find. The moment you ask them, okay, what are we going to do about it? What we doing? It's just a pattern. So you start becoming that way in 16, 17. You transition to 25, 30. You become 40 years and the whole world have left you behind because you were worried on what the environment is happening to you. Extreme ownership, guys. Not why me, but what? Try me. That doesn't mean that you won't fail. And that's the biggest fallacy. Guys, leadership is a painful journey. It's a very lonely journey. But also, God oftentimes puts you in a position of leadership, not for you, but for everybody else. So leadership has nothing to do with being in charge. Leadership has everything to do with being in charge of other people. So you will eat last. You're the one person who cannot have excuses. All of you guys, inshallah, over the next 6 months, you'll be placed in an institution. In the first 90 days, your entire career will be defined. And I'm going to tell you why. If some of you guys come to Innovarex, you'll never get a second chance for a first impression. Set your goal. When your first employer labels you as a superstar, as somebody who is disciplined, as somebody who has leadership potential, every single job that you have next is going to be a referral system from your first job. If you go back when I was your age and ask my first employer what they felt about me, what I'm doing now would not surprise me. Most young people don't realize that 3 things in life will determine how far you go, especially from a Gambian context. Your character is number 1. Your character. Number 2 is your competence. Nahmunga. Because legi munlo te do bay. And especially you guys that sat in a classroom for 4 years, there's somebody right now who's probably taking a job that you should sit in that are half as qualified as you are. And the third thing is, what do you love? Do you love your community? Do you love your nation? Do you love your continent? If you don't start your career thinking about those 3 things at all times, you're not going to have a successful career. And that's why I want to transition. The first one, extreme ownership, right? The second one is servant leadership. What does servant leadership mean to you guys? Anybody? Servant leadership. You guys have college degrees, so there's some people that, what does it mean to serve? There's a quote that says, a man or a woman finds themselves in life when they lose themselves in the service of other people. There's a consistent thread, I'm telling you guys. Everything that God gifted you with is for you to gift it to somebody else. It could be wealth, it could be knowledge, it could be skill set. Don't ever think that it's yours. Human beings could get very arrogant, not knowing that every single one of you guys, what you are inherently good at, the majors that you chose, successfully creating, lol disabos, denkanela. There's a spiritual element to leadership. That's why some of the greatest leaders were our prophets and our messengers. If you study Islam, Judaism, Christianity, you realize that that's a masterclass in leadership. There's not a single leader greater than our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's everything about leadership. The moment you realize that you're on a journey to accumulate skills and you recognize the gift from God, you spend the rest of your life gifting that to other people. Because in return, God trusts you more with the gift. Some of you guys are gifted, but you don't honor the gift. You take it for granted. There's some of you guys, some of the exams, some of the subjects. Science was that for me. Chemistry was never difficult. Sometimes I felt like it was even a waste of time. It came natural. I learned it. I understand it. I move on. Some subjects were not the same. So I realized very early that, okay, this is a gift. Speaking in front of public. I was speaking since I was 6 years old. I'm 39 years old. So I've been public speaking for over 30 years. It's a gift. So I use it now to what? Gift it to other people. But leadership is about service, guys. The reason why we get it wrong is we come from a society, from a country where leadership was something aspirational for one person. And I'll explain what I mean. When Gambia became Gambia, when the colonial masters came, our societies had leaders across the communities. What colonialism brought to Africa was there could only be one leader. There could only be one chief. There could only be one president. There could only be one mayor. So every single person's psyche transformed to leadership that is collective, so there could only be one. So what happens is, as a human being, we're not meant for power. Power belongs to God. In any environment that you start having too much power, fear God. Because human beings, the more power you have, the less servant you become. Because of poverty in our continent, in our country, the more power you have, the less servant you become because people start serving you. Not because of who you are, but what you could do for them. So over the years, we've lost the concept of servant leadership. People are aspiring to be leaders, not to serve, but to be served. Just look at the pattern. So Sonny, this person is a leader. We now define it based on what benefits to leadership are surrounded by that person, be it popularity, be it money, be it a fancy car. Not how many people is this person going to serve. So if you don't understand the concept of servant leadership, as in what can I do for you? Every institution that you walk into, have the mindset of what can I do for you? Don't be a taker. Be a giver. People like givers. And you, once again, first impression, you guys are too critical. I guarantee you'll have a successful career if every single day you have a mindset of what more can I give? Your first boss, what more can I do? A coworker, what can I do to help? And you never ask them something in return. You'll start confusing them at first. What does this person want? But for you, you're doing it for you because you're sowing seeds of your internal compass where you'll always serve. And the more you serve, the more responsibility you have because once again, God is bestowing you with something because you're also showing God that you are capable of thinking of somebody else other than you. And that's when it becomes lonely. Because power and purpose are two different things. My biggest fear for young Africans and young Gambians is their relationship with power when it comes to leadership. It's not purpose. A function of leadership is to align their purpose with a greater good. Function of leadership is not to seek power. That's when you start changing your human nature because power corrupts. And absolute power corrupts what? Absolute. No human being is immune to corruption of power. And oftentimes now, once again, leadership is perceptive. Anybody you see and say, that person's a good leader. If people fear him, he's not a good leader. If people love him and he's never given them anything, that's because he's always given them through his word. So even the people that we select as leaders, if you look at it through the lens of purpose and not power, you'll select better leaders. A good leader doesn't want power. Power scares them because power will corrupt them. But if you have extreme ownership and you have a servant leadership mindset, find your purpose in life as fast as possible. Chase purpose, don't chase power. Especially the young men. I'm going to speak to the Gambian men for a second. We have a higher addiction to power than our women. Even though historically speaking, women have a better track record in Africa than men. Because every household, if you ask who is the leader in terms of extreme ownership, what can I do about this? Servant leadership, who can I serve? Is who? Our mothers. If you look at African society, who leads from a position of power and accumulation of resources is who? The men. So as a man, you have a responsibility to reorient your compass. Every single ill in society, once power becomes the objective, the society crumbles, especially in a poor nation. And I'm going to maintain why, because there's a cycle. There's a direct correlation to poverty and poor leadership. What happens in a poor nation or a nation in poor circumstances? There's never enough. I'm going to give you guys a secret. Gambia and Africa is the hardest place to be a leader. I'm speaking from experience. Gambia and Africa is the hardest place to be a leader. And I'll tell you why. But after I tell you this, any single person who is charged with leading an institution, leading a nation, leading anything, pray for that person. You know what poverty does to leadership? Have you ever seen the stress of a mother when she only has $300 and she has to feed her family for 5 days? That's the burden of leadership. It's never enough. But have you ever seen a hungry child, the way they look at their mother? Does a child ever know that mommy doesn't have enough? They just expect, because psychologically they were born where even without food on the table, they could suckle from the breast of their mom. So we're all programmed from birth that resources will always be available from our leader. So when you become in a position of leadership, you realize that what you are given in Gambia to lead is never enough. But everybody else expects you, because you are a leader, and we have programmed our mind that leadership equals power and access to resources. Everybody comes to you for politics in terms of power and resources. So then Africa is in this cycle. We're poor, so it leads to poor leadership, poor resources. You never have enough of anything. You don't have enough talent. You don't have enough financial resources. So every single day, people that are looking at you are giving you $300 and telling you they want super kanja for lunch. Where can you cook super kanja in this economy with $300? So what do you do in that case? Do you run? How do you lead from a place of scarcity? That's the burden. There's no secret. Behind the cars, behind the social media, most leaders have sleepless nights. Most leaders, every single day, you're making a decision.